right, our recording is going, and so let's get this evening started. I know it's the beginning of the school year. Everyone's still trying to get back into the schedule and the swing of things. So let's make sure I want to make sure I'm respecting everybody's time because I know everyone's beat. And I know we have back to school nights and all those things coming up too. So we won't waste any time getting right to it. So I'm Kelly Ryder. I'm the founder of English Learner Portal. If you would like, please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are, your role, where you're from. One thing I love about the Functional Language Planning Expert Intensive is that it attracts educators um, from across the country and even from across the world. In our summer session, we had a few people who were part of the group that were from other countries. And our teacher from Singapore was always like, got up early in the morning, her time, to be able to join us in the evening, our time. Oh, see, so now we have someone from China, um, Maryland. See, we've had groups from all over. So it's one thing I love about the program is bringing together people who care about the same thing, but have very different perspectives on how to approach things, and it makes for very rich discussions. All right, let's get into it. The Functional Language Planning Expert Intensive, this is our info session, so we'll be focused on what it is, why it is, how it works, and all of those details. I would guess that since you're here tonight, you've been seeing little bits and pieces about the program that we've sent out, maybe read a case study or two that it's sent out, or just saw it come by your screen and got interested. So this program is made for the audience that you see here on your screen. If you're an ELD teacher in K through 12, it is definitely something for you. If you're in adult ed, it could be. It really depends. We'd have to talk a little bit about your situation. But we have, as I talk to schools and do coaching in different schools in different states and visit different places for workshops, the conversations the past few years have been really around our ELD teachers struggling to find their place as states are mandating particular curriculum programs or structures of programs that change the way our classroom content runs, which inevitably changes the way we are being asked to run ELD programs, or just confuses the way we used to do things, and we're having a hard time shifting and finding a new way that meshes well with the new expectations in the classroom. If you're an ELD teacher or program or school leader or content teacher who wants to expand your expertise in the world of language acquisition, you want to find a way for your students, for you to continue to expand students' language and academic language while you're teaching your content, or you see the impact that language development is having on students' ability to engage or participate in class, then you will definitely benefit as well. If you're a program or school leader who is responsible for making all of these pieces fit together, for all the cogs in the wheel to move smoothly, we definitely will be able to give you lots of information, input, conversation, guidance around what that can look like, different options as well. So if you fit into those categories, then I think you are in the right place. If you don't, just let me know in the chat what your role is, and we can have a real conversation about if this would be right for you. We've had a couple speech language pathologists that made it their own. We've had all kinds of content area teachers, ELD teachers, district leaders, school principals. So I think we can adjust. So the ideas I'm sharing today will just get into the content of functional language planning just a little bit so you know where this program is headed and what we're based on. We're not going deep into the research today, but I do want you to know that everything we talk about and everything that is part of the official program is research-based. And if you are interested in looking at that research, if that's something that sparks your interest, you like getting into those and reading the background, then we do have a bibliography that I can send to you where you can explore what the research base is to see if it's a match for you. That research bibliography was created and for this program by Dr. Ruslana Westerlin, who is one of the top researchers in the field of systemic functional linguistics. And you may recognize her name if you're in a WIDA state. She was one of the co-creators of the 2020 WIDA standards and continues to be part of that work as well. And she's also a guest presenter and facilitator in the program itself, which I'll get into a bit coming. So everything that is part of this program has been run through very well-respected experts in the field and based on the research. Everything that we do in the program has been implemented and tested by myself, by others, by the experts, by content teachers, classroom teachers. We've had administrators involved. And so we do continue to practice what we share and fine tune and revise. It's one of the things I love about the program is each time we start a new cohort, the program is even better because the last cohort moved everyone's learning along and created great resources that we then add to the next cohort. So if you are comfortable sharing in the chat, feel free if you just want to think to yourself. If you're here, it's because you probably want to revamp, revise, make some changes, make some tweaks to your ELD program or to how you approach language development in the classroom. So that happens when we're coming across barriers. So what do you see as keeping your ELD program or keeping your students from having the best access to instruction and moving along the way we would like them to? You can feel free to share those barriers and challenges in the chat. That keeps us all informed. I don't want to assume that I know your situation, though I've been in many, many schools over the years and have spoken to many people about the challenges. Here are some that I hear as I am out and about, visiting and talking and working with schools. One of the major challenges or barriers is that there's limited planning time to align the language to the content, right? This is a challenge. I mean, time is a challenge in education, period. When we are looking at new curriculum or a change in curriculum or even curriculum we've used for a few years, anytime there's a bit of a shift in expectations, then we have to realign our language with that content. And so it's possible, it's very possible, and it's very rewarding when we can get it done, but the time is tough, right? Our ELD teachers have growing caseloads. We have, teachers working with multiple grade levels or across multiple schools. Planning time is a challenge in general. Collaborative planning time is even harder. So that is probably one of the top barriers that I hear when I'm talking with schools. One that has been prevalent about the last 2 years. Right around that time, 2 to 3 years ago, a number of states passed new legislation that gave structure to teaching reading, teaching English language arts in K through 12, especially in the K through 3 realm, a lot of new policy there. And through that, many states put out a list of what programs needed to have to be able to qualify for districts to purchase and use as their curriculum. And those programs are quite structured. I understand why they picked something that was predictable and structured based on science of reading in most cases. And while the science of reading research and English language development research aligns pretty well, we're having trouble figuring out how we put the two instructional pieces together, right? We all believe the same thing about language and literacy development, but we're finding a hard time when we have a very scripted program to figure out where that English language development instruction fits in and how we can stay true to our curriculum, whether it be math or language arts. We've had a lot of curriculum changes in math as well. And then trying to align, which is leaving our content teachers unsure of how to guide ELD teachers and our ELD teachers unsure of what their program should look like. Oftentimes, when I am visiting schools or talking to ELD teachers, they are frustrated as part of not being able to find the place in the new curriculum of being asked to front load vocabulary, or can you take this student and finish this assignment, or can you do this phonics intervention? And while they're all good pieces to instruction, we're finding that our roles are getting very unclear. And what is classroom teacher? What is ELD teacher? And do these things really qualify according to federal guidelines of what an ELD program should be? And we are running into a number of situations where all good intentions of having ELD teachers follow up with content instruction, it's becoming to where there isn't really an ELD program and ELD standards aren't being included because we're being very responsive and reacted to the content area. And as I said, there is a way to mesh it, but right now we're struggling to meet federal guidelines in both language, all language arts, math, and ELD instruction. And the bottom line is that what I hear most from administrators and teachers is that we're working hard, we're trying to collaborate, we're all doing the best we know to do, and we're still getting these data charts with lots of red, or not making our AMOs, or not not looking good on the state report cards. Our students are not keeping pace. And that is what really starts to motivate us to think of another approach, because that definition of insanity, right? To keep doing something that's not working and expecting a different result. We are doing a lot of that because we don't know what else to do. So we're doing the best we can with what we know. And we're getting the same results. So we have to open our minds to looking at things in a different way. And I'm going to give you some things to think about as another way to look at how these programs fit together in ways that are really making positive impacts on student data. When it comes to the personal side, right, as teachers, as administrators, we just want to feel respected and valued. When I go to school, I want my team to know that I have some expertise, whether it be a new teacher, an experienced teacher, content teacher, ELD. I have some experience. I have a lot to offer of value, and I do want to do that, right? I don't want to be the resistant one, the naysayer. I want to get in there, feel respected, feel valued, see my students succeed. But I also want to have a life. That's where we really struggle. To really truly co-plan with all the different grade levels and all the different curriculum. That's a lot to juggle. And it's a lot to ask a content teacher to juggle all the different adults. Maybe it's paraeducator, a reading specialist, reading intervention, an ELD teacher, special education, right? There's a lot of juggling going on. And we really just want to do the best that we can do, and without investing an extraordinary amount of time, right? We want it to be reasonable, for reasonable work hours like most people would want. All of these things, as I'm listening in school and hearing the barriers and talking about the challenges, it reminds me, the last district where I worked, I finished my years in that district as the English language development program coordinator. So I was responsible for ELD curriculum, for professional development, for hiring the ELD teachers and supporting them, for being the ELD expert to consult with other content areas. And in my 6 years in that role, one of the things I was responsible for was looking at the language arts curriculum and aligning our ELD curriculum so we complied federally, but aligning it to language arts, and then making sure I'm working with my ELD teachers that they know how these pieces fit together. So we did one round of that with a new product the district was implementing. And the response back was fair. Like, it made sense to teachers. They were trying, but they were being pulled more into intervention, and not having time to work with their upper level students or intermediate students. And we were trying to work out those kinks. A year later, the district came back and said, we're purchasing a new language arts curriculum. We want you to do this again, create a new ELD curriculum that aligns with the new language arts curriculum. And if you've done any curriculum writing before, you know that's a big undertaking, K through 12, right? It's a K through 12 program. That's a lot of curriculum writing the second time around. So we aligned again, did our research, created this beautiful, in my opinion, K through 12 project-based learning curriculum for ELD that integrated. We went to each content area grade level specialist and said, give us your big ideas from science. What are the most important things that students in middle school need to know about science to build their background knowledge, or where they usually have gaps? We did the same thing with math and social studies and language arts. And we created this project-based learning curriculum that provided content area support by using that as our context, and provided language development. And I would say you never have a product that everyone's in love with. Most of the teachers loved the idea of the integration and the projects. Well, the reality was that when teachers were in the school, the administrators were asking teachers to push into content area classrooms. And so it was very difficult for teachers to implement the ELD curriculum when you're in someone else's classroom, trying to do a project and they're doing something else. And our curriculum kept getting put aside and putting teachers into the language arts curriculum. So we had to look at that again. Then I was in Maryland at the time. Maryland passed a new law about what our reading curriculum needed to have, what products were allowed, and the district purchased the third language arts product in my 5 years that I had been there. And that's when I thought, there's got to be a better way. Like we can't keep reacting and responding and reacting and responding and changing everything. It was just too exhausting, time consuming, and not effective. We never got any teachers up to speed before we changed it again. So that's when I really started doing my research and saying there has to be a better way. And around the same time, I had the opportunity to participate in a training of trainers with the WIDA Consortium to go to WIDA out at the University of Wisconsin and do a week-long crash course all day, every day, professional development, and learn how to do professional development for the WIDA Consortium. A great learning experience for me because I had to learn all the ins and outs of the standards. In that process, I got to meet Dr. Ruslana Westerlin, who I mentioned because she was one of the authors who came in and explained things to us. And we really started talking about the challenges that schools were facing, the reality of when research doesn't match practical, when the two things are not aligning. And we started sharing resources, having a lot of conversations, getting signed up for her blog. So fast forward about 5 years, I then kind of felt confident enough in what she was teaching to then now bring it to teachers and share because it made it so much easier and made sense. So I'm going to give you the very speed version of what Dr. Westerlund was teaching me for 5 years before I really could wrap my head around it. Right. The idea that we work with now is that we need all hands on deck, right? Everyone's teaching letters and sounds until they have it down. Schools that were in the functional language planning expert intensive in the spring, two schools that I worked very closely with, they had most of the ELD teachers doing phonics interventions, and we had third graders that had been in these interventions in first grade and in second grade, and now they were in the same types of interventions in third grade, and they were still looking like a sea of red in the DIBELS data. So as I said earlier, we had to have the real conversation of if you keep doing the same thing and getting the same results, like, you know, we have to change something. This is not working. And we did have one of the schools say, you're right, it's not working. Do whatever you want with them for the fourth quarter because there's nothing you can do to send them backwards, right? Maybe we'll have a breakthrough. And those were the best words ever. So what we said was the approach we needed to take is that what we've been doing, I shared this picture with them to say, we have a group of teachers here, and imagine our tree is our student. And let's say the teacher who's holding the watering can right now is pouring in that content area instruction. So we have a balanced program, most likely, because the states have been good about making it very clear what we needed to offer. And that teacher's doing read alouds and teaching phonemic awareness, and they're doing some writing, and they have comprehension. They have all the things going on that's in science of reading and the reading strands, all of that, the pillars they're delivering. So when we have a student who wasn't doing well, then the teacher with the watering can would then say, okay, now ELD teacher with the purple shoes, I'm passing these students to you. Could you please keep doing this same phonemic awareness phonics work with them as well? And so we pass the can and the purple shoe teacher is pouring the water on. Then we see the data and we say, okay, this student qualifies for reading intervention, so I'm going to pass it over to the teacher with the genes with the split in the knee. You're the reading intervention teacher. Now I want you to pour on the phonemic awareness and the phonics intervention. And we're still getting the same results because everyone's doing the same thing. And turns into this, right? We're all working, sweating, worrying, fussing and fretting over these students, and we're all doing the same thing, and we're all getting nowhere because we're missing certain pieces. So when you line up the science of reading research and English language development research, most of it aligns and works very well together. The difference is that while all the pieces are there in both sets of research, so science of reading, it all aligns. If you're talking about pillars or strands, it all aligns. It exists in both areas of research. The difference is how that research is then translated into curriculum for the classroom, right? There is an emphasis in certain places. So our boxed curriculum is putting a really heavy emphasis on phonics, phonemic awareness, and those readiness skills, which is understandable. We have to have that in our program. But we only have so much time. So other pieces of the research take a back seat because our program has decided to put more attention on this piece of the research. So still valid, but it doesn't necessarily fit every student. And it especially comes into play with English learners, multilingual learners. What we find in the English language development research is that there is a stronger emphasis on oral language development in order for students to have a foundation to attach all those other skills. So that emphasis on oral language development that we do in ELD tends to be missing from the content area curriculum. And when it is there, we oftentimes tend to jump over it because we're worried about time. And so that mismatch is creating a situation where we're really heavy in one piece of the research and missing the other piece. And so we're that hamster on the wheel. So if we look at it more as we take our student here and one of the teachers has the watering can and is delivering the content area curriculum that's aligned to that research. It has a broad range of skills and ideas. And then we have our teacher with the shovel, maybe that's the ELD teacher, is adding a little different foundation and soil and structure for the student, doing something a little bit different with a little different focus, but they still work together. Then we have our reading intervention there with the little trowel, and she has different tools to work with the student and focus on skills as well. When we put together all the key pieces of the different sides of the research and bring them together, that's when we get progress. So right now we're leaning so heavy on one piece of research that we're missing students because the key pieces that are them as language learners, we're not getting into their day. All right. So I'm going to go, jump too far. When we look at our ELD programs, this is how that scenario plays out. So far we've been talking about where we're struggling. So here's a mindset shift that I want you to consider. In the past, traditionally, English language development programs have been focused on psycholinguistics. I'd get my mind straight there. So psycholinguistics. So a program focused on psycholinguistics, right, is really thinking about the structures of the brain. And of course, it required time dedicated to explicitly teaching language. So we wanted an ELD block, we wanted time for instruction. And in psycholinguistics, you think of that as more of a scope and sequence and a very strict structure. Like in year one, or this is what we teach level 1 students, or this is what we teach in ESL 1 in the high school. This is what we teach in a newcomer class. We can do present tense, we can do pronouns, we can do, vocabulary, and then we progress up to what's next, what's next, what's next. It's a predetermined sequence of instruction based on how the brain processes language. Again, no right or wrong, all based on solid research. The issue is, like what I was trying to do when I was writing that project-based learning curriculum, I was following that psycholinguistic research. If you do this and this and this, then they will have the whole package. But it's unrealistic with what today's content area is asking for. Because in order for me to teach this sequence of language, it's just out of whack with what's happening or out of alignment with what's happening in the classroom. And then students are confused because they're learning about one thing here and another thing over here, and it wasn't meshing. So solid instruction, but the programs didn't mesh. So what Dr. Ruslana was pushing with me was do your research in sociocultural linguistics. Still very valid research, but a different mindset. And as part of sociocultural linguistics, there is systemic functional linguistics. That's a subset there. And in SFL, language is a system of choices, right? So we're worried more about not step 1, step 2, step 3, and it has to happen in this order. But more of, if you think of it like a buffet of language that we have to learn, there's all these things we have to learn, and we're most concerned about making meaning, getting students to understand instruction, to participate in instruction, and to communicate what they're learning. So instead of having battling curriculums, we look at the base curriculum, which would be the language arts or math or whatever it may be that all students are doing. And then we look at the context and we look at the functions of language and we look at the genre and we look at what language do students need this week, this month to understand instruction, be successful in the classroom, and communicate what they know. That looks different than a pre-programmed approach to the sequence students learn. So we're teaching language, but we're doing things in a different order and in a different fashion that is based on just focus really on that functional part. What do they need today to function in this classroom and be successful? If we're teaching that to them next month, it's not helping them be successful today, right? We can't say, well, they'll get it later and they'll come back around next year. If they need it right now, we're teaching it right now. So how we determine our language focus is based on the language that is needed to be successful in the classroom. Now, that is an art to learn, of course. So as I said, SFL, right, a range of authentic and supported learning opportunities. They're getting a lot of opportunities already in the content area. Why create new ones? Let's use the ones they're already doing. We can co-teach that way. We could do pull out and support. We can still do all the things we like to do. And we want to make sure our students are participating. To be able to make that work, you have to become a functional language planning expert, or at least become comfortable in functional language planning. And you will see things fall into place much more easily. You won't feel like you're trying to fit the square peg in the round hole all the time. It takes some training, some professional development, some exposure and talking it through. We look at examples of curriculum and we practice breaking it down into, so what language would we teach with this? Is this aligned with our language development standards? Can we make sure we're justifying it for both sets of standards? And we do a lot of practice like that together to get you to feel comfortable. No, I apologize. This alignment is all kind of crazy. So in the Functional Language Planning Expert Intensive, that's our goal. So if you can agree with the mindset shift that what we've been trying to do is not getting us where we want to be, and that you understand that the research says align your language instruction to what they need to be successful in content, right? If you are okay with that mindset, then what we do in the Functional Language Planning Expert Intensive is we learn the basics of systemic functional linguistics and what the research says with help of Dr. Westerlin. We develop our expertise of different pieces of language, like where do verb groups fit in? Where do noun groups fit in? What really is cohesion? When we say their writing needs to be cohesive, what is that? Right? When we tell students they need to revise their text and make it, work on making it more cohesive and making it flow better, do we know really what we want them to do? So we look at that functional language and what pieces do we need to teach students. Then we also go through very practical planning to say, where do we look? Where do we find that? How do we know? And we work on that together. The program runs September 12th through December 12th. Let me give you a little bit more information. It's a 30-hour program, and I know that sounds intimidating at first, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So we do a little bit on the research and developing your expertise in linguistics and language, because you have to be the content expert. Then we spend most of our time looking at examples that Dr. Westerlin has developed, that Dr. Andrea Honingsfeld has developed, that I have developed, that our cohort members have developed. We look through examples, we analyze those, we plan together, we talk about the expectations of curriculum. And most of the time we have people working either in HMH or CKLA, or there's a small number of curriculum that people tend to be working from that we can work together. There's a particular piece of SFL called the Teaching and Learning Cycle. So we talk about very practical day-by-day strategies for the classroom that align with the research-based teaching and learning cycle, right? It goes around in a circle, right? The steps that we follow to develop students, scaffold them up to success with the language. Very predictable tools and sequences that we follow in planning. As part of that, also, my favorite part is that everyone in the cohort has individual personal time where you schedule a block of time to get on Zoom with just you and we talk about your particular situation. Sometimes with teachers, we were talking about a particular group of students they were struggling with. Sometimes it was a program coordinator who was, okay, how do I take this back to my team? Or how do I do professional development to this for my school? Or how do I take this to content teachers? It could be any scenario. Somebody who's writing curriculum and they want to incorporate it and we brainstorm on that. Those sessions are yours. You determine the focus, and then I have a chance to brainstorm with you and share resources above and beyond the course. You have 2 to 3 sessions of that, and oftentimes we add a few more if we're really on a roll. Dr. Andrea Honingsfeld, you might recognize her name. She's very well known for things that she's published in co-teaching and co-planning. She's got a number of books around collaboration. She is the author of one of our modules on co-planning and what that school structure and culture looks like when we're working together, ELD in classroom. She pre-recorded everything for us so that it was always available. So those will be in the virtual sessions. Dr. Ruslana Westerland, we have a lot of her blogs that we use in the course. We also have pre-recorded sessions that she made for us that you'll hear directly from her. And we also have 2 of our live sessions. Talk about that in a second. But for 2 sessions live on Zoom with the group, Dr. Westerlund logs in and she teaches you about systemic functional linguistics and language to develop your expertise that you can take back to the classroom. And I love those sessions because every time we learn something different. And then we record those and include those in your modules as well. You get lots of planning tools. Some we develop as we go because someone in the group will have a great idea and will say, let's run with that. So some of the tools that you'll find in the fall session are tools that the spring and summer helped get started. They might be ones that I have, they might be ones that Dr. Westerlund created for us, but lots of planning tools to help you structure the process and visualize what we're working on. Just as a bonus, you get access to English Learner Portal's Teachers Archive. It's probably about 100 hours of our past trainings, workshops, videos, blogs that you can refer back to as well for an entire school year. So here's how the structure works. I said 30 hours, and I don't want that to feel intimidating because we try to break it up, spread it out, and make it go quickly. So we alternate live sessions via Zoom where we all log on at the same time and we have live conversations. In those live sessions, there's usually a presentation or some teaching where Dr. Westerlund or I will lead the discussion and share information to develop your expertise. And then there is always time for talking about application, for collaboration, for sharing, for small group breakouts, depending on grade level, content area. And you have time to work with others and to brainstorm and reflect, problem solve together. Those are 2-hour live sessions that go by really quickly. We meet from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, and you will get the schedule. I'll give you the link to where you can get more information and you can download the schedule in just a minute. Then we alternate for the next week or 2, depending on how the schedule falls with holidays. Then you work at your own pace in the online pre-recorded modules, so the asynchronous side, and you keep pace and you work when you want. So you might have a little application like, tell me how you would increase student-to-student interaction in your classroom. And in the comment part, you just share an idea or share something you did in class this week that was inspired by the class. Little 10, 15-minute assignments. And then we come back together again. You see here in week 3, you meet Dr. Ruslana Westerlund, and she's talking in this particular one about noun groups and strategies for teaching noun groups and why we even care about noun groups. Then we go back to asynchronous content. Then we come back live, asynchronous, live, back and forth, and we work through. When we get toward the end, then we're asking you to do some implementation, come back and share with others what you're doing, because really that's the most inspirational part, is when you hear from your colleagues, like, I tried this and it was great, and here's my tools and this is what I did, or I tried this and it didn't work, help me. And they brainstorm and pick each other up and help each other through. So we go back and forth. It's 2 months that flies by. It's about 2 hours a week. We meet 2 hours live, or there's about 2 hours of reading one of Ruslana's blogs, or watching some video, or looking at an article, but no more than 2 hours in a week that you can say when and how you want to do that. There's flexibility in the asynchronous sessions that If you're on vacation this week or your kids have 6 different school programs this week and you can't get to it and you want to catch up the next week, that works too, right? The timeline for the asynchronous is really paced by you. We finished together on December 12th, but you would continue to have access to the materials and be able to continue to work through if you need more time through the end of the school year. So, there is no rush. Our live sessions are the only thing that really have to be done at that time. The program is $795 per person, and that covers the live sessions, the asynchronous sessions, the individual coaching sessions, all the handouts, all the pieces that we talked about. In some districts, if you have tuition reimbursement, then districts have allowed that because we are approved through UMass Global, University of Massachusetts Global, UMass Global, for 2 graduate credits for this program. So you could take it for graduate credits. You have to pay UMass Global a bit of a fee. If you're interested in that, we can talk to you about that. I see that one person's from Maryland, but our Maryland teachers, because I used to work in Maryland, I know a little bit more about the structure there, and we are in the process of getting this program approved for CPD credits. So 2 CPD credits, it's another way you could go about it. Sometimes those can be reimbursed. We do have a payment plan. Some school districts will let you use some Title I or Title III grant funding or local school funding. And we've even had some teachers put it on Donors Choose and get donations from community members. So lots of ways. If you can't figure that part out, just reach out to me. I don't want that to be a barrier. I can help you try to find a way. I'm just going to put up a quote here from Maura Dean, who was in our spring session. What we're doing with our spring and summer cohort members is that we found so much value in working together and brainstorming together that we have now created a follow-up program where you just pay a small monthly fee, and we continue on once a month live sessions and extra coaching sessions because we want to continue supporting everyone as they continue to implement and grow. So even after December, you have opportunities for continued support from the community, from each cohort, all the cohorts put together, which is a great benefit. All right, I have been talking a lot. What questions do you have about the program, about the demands, the requirements? What can I answer for you? Now I'm feeling good. Think you got the information that you need? All right, I want to put a link in the box. Hang on one second. I'm very challenged when it comes to typing and talking at the same time. Oh, that link didn't come through very well. If you follow this link, I'll put it in again and try to get it to link correctly. It will take you to our website where you will see some of the same information that I have shared with you. Also a place where you can download the research if you're interested in that, or if you would like to share that with a supervisor to help support your request. You can also from there download the schedule I showed you to see if it matches with your commitments and your time frames. If you have any questions, once you look at those resources, then I'd be happy to get with you and talk about it. Let me give you that link, calendly.com/English learner portal. If you go to the calendly.com/English learner portal, you will see my calendar there, and you'll be able to click a time frame, a date and time that works for you. If you want to make an appointment for like a 15-minute chat to see if this is right for you, I'd be happy to do that. If you want me to chat with a supervisor or someone in the district to help get their approval for you, I'm happy to do that too. Right now, we have, trying to think how many, we have about 10 people registered for the fall. We have a number who are working on permission and funding. So I'm expecting a group of around 20, 25. It'll be great collaboration there. Opportunities for people from all over. So if you have any questions, let me know. Tomorrow, you will get an email with the link to the replay of the recording. So you can also share that with colleagues. If you want someone to take the work on the program with you, it's always nice to have somebody collaborate with that knows your structure. If you want to share the recording, with a supervisor or decision maker to help you as well, feel free to do that. That will come out. I would say you should have it before lunch. If you don't see an email come through with a reminder with the recording, then feel free to email me. Sometimes our automated emails get caught in the spam filters, and so I'd be happy to send you a link directly. info@englishlearnerportal.com comes to me. If you don't see the replay or you have a question, feel free. All right, that's what I have to share with you tonight. If you think of any questions, let me know. I hope to see you all in the fall cohort and get started into functional language planning. We have 2 of our schools from the spring cohort will be continuing with us and are really implementing some very cool ideas and have full admin support. So you'll be able to continue to learn from them. Let's see, I saw Erica says you're from Maryland, Brandywine. Is that PG or Montgomery?
That's PG County.
PG, okay.
Mhm.
So you'll be working in HMH. And
Uh, our reading books,
yes,
they're benchmark events.
benchmark events. Okay.
Mhm.
Everybody's got something different going on. All right. Well, I do quite a bit of work in Prince George's County working with, are you familiar with William Wirt Middle School?
No, I'm not.
They're in, I guess it's Greenbelt, College Park area. We do a lot of coaching with them. Some in Fort Washington, some in just my first 7 years teaching were in PGCPS, Cool Spring,
Oh,
Cool Spring Elementary. So yeah. Um, okay, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for your time this evening. I hope you'll consider joining. And again, if I can answer any questions for you or support you in any way, just let me know.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.